You've felt it. Even if you couldn't name it, you've felt the shift in your chest, in your dreams, in the weight of conversations that used to feel light, in the emptiness of goals that once lit you on fire. Something changed, not just in you, in everything. The rhythms that guided the past no longer work. The rules that shaped your world now sound like noise. What once gave you identity now feels like a costume. You thought it was burnout, disconnection, depression, but it's none of those. It's transition. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open, because we are not in the age of Pisces anymore. We've crossed a threshold older than religion, deeper than culture, and louder than any voice on a screen. The world is not ending. The veil is, and what you feel is real. More real than the systems trying to suppress it. More real than the masks society trained you to wear. More real than the voice in your head telling you to shrink. What you're sensing is not madness. It's memory. A signal rising from the deep self you buried to survive in a world built for silence. And now, it's time to remember. The Age of Pisces was never about clarity. It was about belief, about faith over fact, about surrendering to systems that claimed to know more than you. Religions rose, empires expanded, dogma replaced direct experience. And in the shadows, something inside you went dim. Not because you were wrong, but because your frequency no longer matched the age you were born into. You see, Pisces is ruled by illusion, sacrifice, and mysticism. It glorified the martyr, the savior archetype. It told you someone would come, someone else. That redemption was out there, above you, beyond you. But Aquarius rewrites the script. Aquarius doesn't wait for saviors. It activates the self. It decentralizes power. It reveals the system and then breaks it. And that's exactly what you've been feeling. The internal dissonance, the quiet rage, the ache that nothing normal makes sense anymore. You are not malfunctioning. You are waking up. Because Aquarius doesn't give you permission. It gives you reflection. It says, here's the truth. No filters, no priests, no middlemen. And it dares you to see what you've been avoiding all along. That the voice you've been waiting to hear was always your own. The Pisces age made spirituality external. Aquarius brings it home. And home isn't in a book, or a temple, or a philosophy. It's in the part of you that remembers who you were before the world told you what to be. And when you touch that part, even for a second, everything false begins to fall away. Systems, certainties, self-images, gone. Not because you're broken, but because you're no longer willing to pretend. So when everything around you starts to dissolve, relationships, routines, ideologies, don't panic. You're not losing your life. You're finally stepping into it. Everything you once trusted is trembling. Economies are unraveling. Religions are splintering. Institutions, once seen as eternal, now reveal cracks so deep they no longer hide the rot beneath. You watch leaders contradict themselves, watch media contradict itself, watch society praise chaos and call it structure, and a voice in you whispers, this isn't new, it was always like this. You're just finally seeing it. That's not despair, that's initiation. You weren't meant to fit inside systems designed to suppress your inner knowing. You weren't meant to agree just to survive. You weren't born to memorize someone else's truth and call it your own. The disintegration you feel is sacred. It's not just cultural collapse, it's spiritual shedding. Because in the age of Pisces, your power had to be given away to priests, to prophets, to politicians, to parents. But Aquarius returns it to the source, you. And that's terrifying, because if no one's coming to save you, you're responsible for everything. But it's also liberating, because if no one's coming to save you, you're free to save yourself. This isn't a breakdown. This is the veil lifting. You're not confused, you're recalibrating. Not lost, but unbound. Not stuck, but rebooting in real time. And that's why everything feels raw, unfamiliar, disorienting. Because for the first time, you're no longer living inside the simulation. You're watching it glitch. And you're deciding if you want to play by its rules or finally write your own. This shift doesn't ask for belief. It demands participation. It calls you to reconnect with the parts of yourself the old world told you to suppress. Your intuition, your insight, your quiet rage, your unreasonable clarity. Because Aquarius doesn't teach you how to follow, it dares you to lead. So if this feels uncomfortable, good. It means you're aligned. It means you're paying attention. It means the truth is louder than the noise. And if this is resonating, subscribe and tap the bell, because the rest of the world is about to get louder, and this channel is the signal behind the static. This isn't just a vibe shift. It's not an aesthetic, a meme trend, or a generational mood swing. It's a cosmic event, timed, mapped, engineered by design older than civilization. Because time isn't linear, it's spiral. It loops, evolves, and resets. And every 2,160 years, we move into a new astrological age. The Age of Pisces began around the time empires started branding spirituality. It birthed messiahs, monotheism, ideology as identity, and a culture where blind belief became currency, where surrender was holy and questioning was heresy. Pisces was the age of followership. But now, the spiral has turned, and Aquarius doesn't ask you to believe. It demands that you know. It is the age of systems collapsing, not by chance, but because they're no longer vibrationally compatible with where consciousness is heading. You're not just watching history unfold. You're standing at a pressure point in the human timeline. Right now, right here, you, the one reading this, are alive during a global initiation. Not metaphorically, energetically. Aquarius governs frequency. It rules innovation, detachment, clarity, and community. It breaks the mold of hierarchy and replaces it with grid-like networks. Decentralization in action. And that's exactly why the institutions around you are crumbling. Because they were built like pyramids, and this age no longer supports vertical power. We are shifting to the horizontal, to the shared, to the vibrational, to the sovereign collective. And if your nervous system is screaming, if your skin itches in boardrooms, your stomach churns in schools, your throat tightens in churches, you're not malfunctioning. You're tuning out of a dying signal. You were born with a code inside you that only activates during major thresholds. That code is ancient, pre-verbal, and it's not downloaded, it's remembered. You're not just evolving. You're returning to a version of yourself that's been dormant for lifetimes. One that knows reality is malleable, belief is programmable, systems are optional, and alignment is law. The world you knew isn't broken, it's obsolete. And you, your restlessness, your refusal to comply, your silent knowing, that's not rebellion. It's resonance with a frequency the old world cannot hear. But you can, and that's why you're here. They built the world to keep you asleep, not in chains, but in routine, in compliance, in reward-based obedience. They gave you just enough comfort to forget your restlessness, just enough praise to tame your potential, just enough fear to keep your power buried beneath your daily checklist. Because a human who remembers is dangerous. A human who questions is radioactive. And a human who aligns, not with culture, but with consciousness, is untouchable. This is not a conspiracy. It's a frequency war. And you are not powerless in it. You are the power source. But here's the trap. They didn't need to take your power. They just needed you to forget how it works. So they conditioned your signal to fold in on itself. They taught you to doubt your intuition, to fear your sensitivity, to label your knowing as irrational. They told you to respect authority, even when it made your spirit shrink. They told you to follow structure, even when it turned your joy into noise. They told you to stay grounded, even as the ground beneath you dissolved. But Aquarius doesn't play by those rules. It exposes them, then it burns the manual. This age doesn't care about your job title, your social status, your perfectly curated life. It cares about one thing only. Are you vibrating in truth or surviving in distortion? Because if you're living a life that no longer fits, it will shake. If you're holding relationships that suffocate your signal, they will collapse. If you're trying to hold on to beliefs that belong to your ancestors but not your soul, they will rot in your hands. And that's not punishment. That's physics. That's coherence recalibrating itself in real time. This is why everything is intensifying, not because the world is getting worse, but because reality is accelerating toward resonance. And anything that can't keep up must break apart. The Age of Aquarius doesn't tolerate dissonance. It exposes it. That's why your body is screaming, your mind racing, your heart whispering things you can't explain. You are not dying. You are detoxing from an entire age. You are bleeding out illusions that your soul never consented to carry. And now, every day you wake up is an invitation to choose, to keep broadcasting the distortion they trained you to hold, or to retune yourself to the clarity you were born to remember. Because the signal is here, the shift is real, and you are no longer just feeling it, you are it. Every thought you've ever repeated has become a tone. Every belief you've clung to has shaped a waveform, and every feeling you've ignored has distorted your signal. You weren't taught this. You were taught to make decisions with logic, to suppress emotion, to trust what you can see, to build your life around proof. But the universe isn't responding to your logic. It's responding to your resonance. And here's the truth no one told you. You've been manifesting your life since the moment you had a frequency, not since the moment you started doing affirmations. If you've been stuck in loops, attracting the same people, the same pains, the same patterns, it's not because the world is broken. It's because your signal is repetitive. The Age of Pisces taught you to live from narrative, but the Age of Aquarius demands you live from vibration. Narrative is slow. Vibration is instant. Narrative asks for belief. Vibration requires embodiment. Narrative can be faked. Vibration never lies. Aquarius doesn't care what you say you want. It amplifies what you are, at the atomic level, at the emotional level, at the soul level. So what are you right now? Not what do you hope to become, not what do you project to others, but what is your default frequency, the energy you broadcast when you're alone, unfiltered and no one's watching. That's your real life script. That's what's writing your story, not your goals, not your dreams, your unconscious tone. And here's the most radical truth of this shift. You don't change your life by fixing it. You change your frequency, and the life that matches the old signal dissolves on its own. This is why so many things are falling apart. Not because they're broken, but because they're tuned to a version of you that no longer exists. You outgrew your old signal, and life is echoing that truth back to you in real time. That's not chaos. That's coherence reasserting itself. And the more you resist it, the louder it gets. The more you try to go back, the less it works, because you've already left. Your body knows. Your soul knows. Now it's time for your mind to catch up, because you're not here to explain this shift. You're here to embody it, to walk like resonance, to speak like alignment, to act like clarity. So stop asking the world to make sense. Start making your frequency impossible to ignore. Take a moment, look around. Everything you see, the people, the problems, the patterns, they're not just events. They're echoes, reflections of the energy you've been radiating on repeat, not consciously, not from the curated version of yourself, but from the deep silent tones you carry beneath every word, every posture, every breath. The Age of Pisces made it easy to blame. Blame the system, blame the devil, blame karma, blame God. But in the Aquarian frequency, projection fails because you no longer get to pretend the outer world isn't shaped by your inner state. There is no separation. The field responds, always, with brutal precision. You think your partner won't change? Check your boundary vibration. You think money avoids you? Check the frequency of your self-worth. You think no one understands you? Check the signal you're sending. Not the mask, but the raw current beneath your defenses. The world isn't testing you, it's translating you. And every situation you call reality is simply your broadcast, rendered in flesh, time, and circumstance. That's why trying to change your life from the outside in never works, because you're trying to rearrange the projection instead of rewriting the source file. But here's the revolution. You are the source file. And once you shift your frequency, everything that doesn't match it will fall away. Not through force, but through dissonance. The wrong relationships will end. The wrong opportunities will dry up. The illusions will collapse, not as punishment, but because the new signal has no place for them. They literally cannot exist in your field anymore. You don't rise by fighting the old. You rise by vibrating beyond its reach. And once you do, something strange happens. The chaos doesn't stop, but it no longer belongs to you. The noise doesn't disappear, but you no longer carry it in your body. The confusion doesn't end, but your clarity becomes louder than all of it. That's the Age of Aquarius. It doesn't fix the world for you. It tunes you until you no longer live in the same reality. Because the version of Earth that matches your old self will no longer be available, and all that's left is resonance. So the question becomes, will you tune yourself to what's dying or to what's awakening? Because you can't belong to both. This isn't a trend. It's not an aesthetic, a spiritual hashtag, or a generational vibe. It's a shift in the operating system of reality itself. And you are not just experiencing it, you are it. You are the proof that the Piscean world is dissolving. You are the living contradiction to everything they told you was permanent. You are the new architecture, the new signal, the new myth. The Age of Aquarius doesn't ask you to transcend. It dares you to incarnate, fully, consciously, unapologetically, to live as frequency, to walk as coherence, to embody such radical truth that distortion cannot survive in your presence. It's not about being perfect. It's about being precise. It's not about knowing everything. It's about remembering enough to trust the unknown, because that's where this shift is leading us. Not to control, but to surrender into signal. Not to answers, but to resonance. Not to more knowledge, but to energetic clarity. The old world wanted you passive, compliant, sedated. The new frequency makes that impossible. That's why you can't go back. Not to that job, not to that relationship, not to that version of you that fit the narrative but starved the soul. Because the earth is tuning, and you are tuning with it. You'll feel people drop away. Old dreams will dissolve. Your identity will strip down to silence. And what's left won't be emptiness. It will be signal, clean, unmistakable, unstoppable. You won't have to explain yourself anymore. You'll simply broadcast what can no longer be denied. This isn't spiritual fluff. It's energetic fact. In this new age, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. So the final question is this. If you stripped away every story, every mask, every belief they gave you, what signal would remain? And are you brave enough to live from that place, even if it means leaving everything behind? Drop your truth in the comments. This isn't about getting answers. It's about recognizing your own signal in the reflection of others. And if you're ready to go deeper, the next frequency is already waiting for you.